The underground chamber echoed with the distant sound of footsteps. Lucas Hale was coming. Every second, the footsteps grew louder. Closer. Closer. Amara carefully placed the founder's journals back onto the stone table. She looked at Elena. We can't let anything happen to these. Elena nodded. They're irreplaceable. Jaden turned toward the entrance tunnel. I'll slow him down.
No.
Amara stepped in front of him. We're not fighting. Jaden frowned. He just invaded the city. I know. He could destroy everything. I know. So, what's the plan? Amara took a deep breath, then looked once more at Samuel's journal. The founders built this place on trust. She smiled softly. I'm not going to betray that. Just then, a tall figure appeared at the entrance of the vault. Lucas Hale. His expensive suit was dusty from the tunnels. Behind him stood several engineers and security personnel. Lucas slowly surveyed the room. His confident smile faded. No gold, he murmured. No laboratory? No prototype? His eyes finally settled on the 5 journals. That's all. Jaden folded his arms. You seem disappointed. Lucas ignored him. He walked slowly toward the stone table. His grandfather's journal lay beside Samuel's. Lucas reached for it. Before he could touch it, Amara spoke. Those journals belong to everyone. Lucas stopped. He turned toward her. So, he smiled. The famous Princess Amara. I've heard a great deal about you. Amara remained calm. And I've heard about you. Lucas chuckled. Then you know why I'm here. I think I do. Lucas looked around the chamber. My grandfather devoted his life to Project Sunrise. He deserved recognition. He deserved ownership. Amara quietly shook her head.
No.
Lucas frowned. What? He deserved gratitude. He never deserved ownership. Silence filled the chamber. Lucas laughed. You sound exactly like Samuel. Amara smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. For the first time, Lucas's smile disappeared. He looked at Marcus Hale's journal. You know, my grandfather always said Samuel was naive. He believed knowledge should belong to everyone. Lucas sighed. That isn't how the world works. Amara stepped closer.
No.
That's how the world became broken. Neither looked away. 2 visions of the future, standing face to face. Lucas believed knowledge created power. Amara believed knowledge created opportunity. The silence stretched. Then, Gabriel's voice echoed through Amara's communicator. Ask him one question. Amara blinked. What question? Gabriel replied quietly. Ask him why Marcus left. Amara looked directly at Lucas. Why did your grandfather really leave Project Sunrise? Lucas hesitated. Only for a moment. He wasn't respected. Amara shook her head. That's not what I asked. Lucas remained silent. Amara continued. Did he leave? Or was he asked to leave? The room became very still. Lucas's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. Elena quietly opened one of the archive folders. I think she does. Lucas looked toward her. Elena held up an old document. A Founder Council resolution. Signed by all 5 founders, including Marcus Hale. Lucas frowned. What is that? Elena handed it to him. He began reading. His expression slowly changed. Confusion. Disbelief. Then shock. The document wasn't an expulsion. It was a resignation, written entirely in Marcus Hale's own handwriting. The final paragraph read, I cannot continue because my vision no longer matches that of the Council. I leave of my own choice. May Project Sunrise succeed, even without me. Signed, Marcus Hale. Lucas stared at the signature. His hands trembled. This can't be. Elena gently spoke. Your grandfather wasn't betrayed. He chose another path. Lucas looked lost. My family always said. He couldn't finish the sentence. Everything he believed, everything he had inherited, suddenly felt uncertain. Amara walked toward him slowly. She didn't accuse him. She didn't celebrate. She simply placed Marcus Hale's journal in his hands. You deserve to know who your grandfather really was. Lucas looked at her.
Confused.
Why would you trust me? Amara smiled gently. Because someone once trusted my family. Lucas lowered his eyes. Slowly, he opened the journal. Inside was Marcus Hale's first entry. If my grandson ever reads this. Lucas froze. His breathing stopped. He turned the page. I hope he becomes wiser than I was. A tear rolled down Lucas's cheek. Ambition without compassion destroys everything it touches. If you ever find Project Sunrise, don't claim it. Protect it. Lucas closed the journal. His shoulders slumped. For years, he had believed he was honoring his grandfather.
Instead,
he had misunderstood him. The chamber remained silent. Finally, Lucas looked at Amara. I'm sorry. No excuses. No arguments. Just 2 words. Amara smiled. Then help us. Lucas looked around the unfinished city, the abandoned buildings, the children above, the dream waiting to be completed. Then he nodded. My engineering company. He took a deep breath. We'll finish the Sunrise Institute. Elena gasped. Jaden smiled broadly. Amara extended her hand. Lucas looked at it for a long moment, then shook it. Above them, the storm clouds began to part. Sunlight streamed through the crystal shafts into the vault, illuminating the 5 founders' journals, as if Samuel, Marcus, Sophia,
Lynn,
and Ibrahim were smiling together once more. For the first time in decades, the founders' dream was whole again. The first rays of sunlight poured into the ancient vault. The crystal shafts scattered golden light across the 5 journals. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful, as though the founders themselves were present, quietly witnessing the moment they had dreamed about decades earlier. Lucas still held his grandfather's journal. He looked at Marcus Hale's signature one last time before carefully closing the book. I spent my whole life trying to defend a story that wasn't true. His voice was barely above a whisper. Gabriel's voice came through the communicator. Many families carry misunderstandings for generations. He paused. The important thing is what we choose after discovering the truth. Lucas nodded slowly. Then he looked at Amara. I want to make this right. Amara smiled warmly. Then start today. Back above ground, news spread quickly throughout Project Sunrise. The mysterious visitors were no longer strangers. The conflict had ended without violence. Students, teachers, doctors, and engineers gathered in the central plaza. Nobody knew exactly what had happened beneath the city, but they could see hope returning to the faces of their leaders. Later that afternoon, a meeting was held in the Hall of Founders. Representatives from every department attended: medicine, engineering, education, agriculture, technology,
arts,
environmental science, community development. The great circular hall was filled to capacity. Elena stepped onto the stage. She looked around the room before speaking. Today marks a new beginning. The audience became silent. For many years, we believed Project Sunrise was something we inherited. She smiled. Today we realized it is something we must continue building. Applause echoed through the hall. She invited Amara to the stage. The young princess looked out at hundreds of faces. People from different countries, different cultures, different languages, united by one dream. Amara took a deep breath. When I first arrived, she smiled. I thought I had come here to solve a mystery. Soft laughter spread through the audience. But I was wrong. She looked around the hall. The mystery was already solved. The answer has been here all along. She gestured toward the audience. You. The room fell silent. You are Project Sunrise. Not the buildings. Not the laboratories. Not the technology. The people. Many wiped away tears. Lucas quietly watched from the back of the hall. For the first time, he wasn't trying to lead. He was simply listening, learning. Amara continued. My uncle Samuel believed that compassion was humanity's greatest invention. She smiled. I believe he was right. The hall erupted into applause. When the applause finally settled, Lucas slowly walked toward the stage. Every eye followed him. He stopped beside Amara. I have an announcement. The room grew quiet. My company has spent years building luxury cities. He looked around, But today, he smiled. We begin building something far more important. He turned toward Elena. My engineers will complete the Sunrise Institute. Cheers filled the hall. And we will do it without claiming ownership. More applause. This city belongs to everyone who believes in its mission. The audience rose to its feet. Construction began the very next week. Across the unfinished district, cranes returned. Workers arrived. Architects reopened long-forgotten plans. Students volunteered. Teachers helped organize community workshops. Doctors designed new training facilities. Artists painted murals celebrating the 5 founders. The entire city became part of the project. Months passed. Walls rose. Gardens bloomed. Solar towers shimmered beneath the sun. The Sunrise Institute slowly came to life. One evening, Amara stood on a hill overlooking the construction site. Jaden joined her. They've made incredible progress. Amara nodded. They have. Jaden smiled. You know what? This isn't really Samuel's dream anymore. Amara looked at him curiously. What do you mean? He pointed toward the busy construction site below. It belongs to everyone now. Amara watched hundreds of people working together. Children planting trees. Engineers testing equipment. Volunteers serving meals. Families laughing together. She smiled. You're right. Far away, in the palace library, Queen Alma carefully opened an old family album. Inside was a photograph from her wedding day. She smiled as she traced the faces with her fingers. Samuel, Gabriel, Mr. Alloy, Prince Kalu, herself. So much had begun that day. Kalu walked into the room. What are you looking at? Alma handed him the photograph. Our beginning. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. And now, he smiled. Our children are writing theirs. High above Lumina Valley, the setting sun cast a warm golden glow over the nearly completed Sunrise Institute. At its highest point, workers carefully raised a new emblem. Not the crest of a royal family, not the logo of a corporation, but a simple rising sun. A symbol of hope, a symbol of shared knowledge, a symbol that reminded everyone that every sunrise brings another chance to build a better world. And as the emblem caught the last light of day, the bells of Project Sunrise rang across the valley, not to celebrate the end of a journey, but the beginning of a future that would belong to generations yet to come. 3 months later, the valley had transformed. Where unfinished steel frames had once stood, now stood the completed Sunrise Institute. Its glass towers reflected the morning sun. Gardens surrounded every building. Children's laughter echoed through the courtyards. Researchers walked beside artists. Doctors shared ideas with engineers. Farmers worked with environmental scientists. Every corner of the campus reminded visitors of one simple belief. No dream is too big when people build it together. Today was opening day. Delegations had arrived from every continent.
Kings,
Presidents,
scientists,
teachers, students, community leaders. Not to admire a monument, but to celebrate a promise fulfilled. Amara stood behind the stage. She looked nervous. Jaden noticed immediately. You've spoken to thousands of people before. I know. So, why are you nervous now? Amara smiled. Because today matters. Jaden placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. It mattered to Samuel. It mattered to Mother. It matters to us. She nodded. And that's exactly why you'll do fine. A palace attendant approached. Princess. They're ready. Amara took a deep breath, then stepped onto the stage. Thousands of people stood before her. The applause echoed across the valley. She smiled, then raised her hand. The crowd slowly became quiet. When I first came here, she looked toward the mountains. I believed I was following a map. Soft laughter rippled through the audience. But I eventually realized.
She paused.
The map was never about finding a place. It was about finding a purpose. Silence settled across the valley. She looked toward the 5 founder statues standing proudly beside the institute. Samuel Adeyemi, Marcus Hale, Sophia Reyes, Lin Wei, Ibrahim Nasser. They came from different backgrounds. They spoke different languages. They believed different things. But they shared one conviction: that every child deserves a chance. The audience applauded. Amara continued. Today, we open the Sunrise Institute, not as the end of Samuel's dream, but as the beginning of yours. Thunderous applause erupted. Children released hundreds of golden balloons into the sky. A choir began singing. The ribbon was cut. The Sunrise Institute officially opened. Inside, students rushed through the halls with excitement. One classroom taught robotics. Another focused on rural healthcare. Nearby, musicians rehearsed beside engineering students building sustainable instruments. Young doctors practiced using advanced medical simulators. Scientists mentored teenagers with extraordinary ideas. Every hallway buzzed with curiosity. Lucas walked quietly through the building. He smiled as he watched children experimenting in the innovation laboratory. Elena joined him. You've changed. Lucas nodded. I had to. He looked around. My grandfather wanted to change the world. I think. He smiled. This is how he truly wanted it done. Elena smiled back. I think so too. That evening, the founders gathered one final time. Not in person, but in spirit. Amara stood before the 5 statues. Beside her stood Jaden, Elena, Lucas, Gabriel, King Kalu, Queen Alma, Mr. Alloy, Isabella. 3 generations. United. Amara placed Samuel's journal inside a glass memorial case. Beside the other 4 journals, a plaque beneath them read, "These journals belong to the people. May future generations add their own chapters." Gabriel smiled. Samuel would have loved that. Alma quietly took her daughter's hand. I'm proud of you. Amara smiled. I learned from the best.
Kalu laughed.
And from me. Amara grinned. You taught me persistence. Jaden laughed loudly. And stubbornness. Everyone burst into laughter. The sun slowly dipped below the mountains. Its final golden rays illuminated the rising sun emblem atop the institute. Children continued laughing in the gardens below. Researchers stayed late in the laboratories. Teachers prepared tomorrow's lessons. Doctors welcomed new patients. Life continued. Hope continued. And somewhere, in every child who dared to dream, the legacy of Samuel and the 5 founders lived on. As the stars appeared overhead, Amara opened a brand new journal. Not one left by the past. One that belonged to the future. She wrote the very first words. Every generation inherits a dream. Its greatest responsibility is not to preserve it exactly as it was, but to help it grow. She closed the journal gently, then looked toward the institute, glowing under the night sky. A new chapter had begun, not because of secrets, not because of hidden vaults, but because ordinary people had chosen, day after day, to build something extraordinary together. The Sunrise Institute had become one of the most respected centers of education and medical research in the world. Students from more than 100 countries walked through its gates every year. Diseases once thought incurable were now treatable. Communities that had once lived in poverty had become centers of innovation. Project Sunrise had fulfilled the founder's dream, or so everyone believed. Early one morning, the Institute's central alarm suddenly echoed across the campus. Researchers looked up from their work. Doctors stopped in the middle of surgery. Students rushed into the corridors. The emergency sirens had never been activated before. Princess Amara, now the director of the Sunrise Institute, hurried into the operations center. What happened? A technician looked pale. Our global network has gone offline. What do you mean? Our medical databases. Our research archives. Our satellite communication system. They're all gone. Amara frowned. Gone. The technician nodded. They've been locked. A giant message appeared on every screen. Black background. White letters. No logo. No signature. Just one sentence. Knowledge belongs to everyone unless someone decides otherwise. The room fell silent. Jaden entered moments later. Cybertech. The technicians nodded. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. Another line appeared on the screens. You protected knowledge in a vault. We have hidden it in the digital world. Amara's expression hardened. This isn't about money.
No.
Jaden agreed. It's personal. Within minutes, governments around the world began calling. Hospitals connected to the Sunrise Network reported losing access to life-saving medical records. Universities could no longer retrieve decades of research. Emergency response systems were beginning to fail. The attack wasn't against one institution. It was against hope itself. A young cybersecurity engineer stepped forward. There is one clue. He projected a symbol onto the main screen. Not the rising sun. A different symbol. A black eclipse covering a golden sun. What does it mean? Amara asked. The engineer swallowed. I've seen it once before. Where? In a classified report. He zoomed in on the emblem. Beneath it were two words. Project Eclipse. The room became silent. Amara looked at Jaden. Jaden looked back at her. Neither had ever heard that name, yet both knew one thing. Somewhere, someone had spent years preparing for this moment. And the greatest challenge their generation had ever faced had just begun. Rain fell steadily over the Sunrise Institute. Emergency lights glowed throughout the campus. Researchers worked nonstop. Computer servers hummed. Cybersecurity experts from around the world had gathered in the command center. Yet no one had been able to restore the system. The attacker had left no trace. Amara stood before the massive digital display. Every monitor showed the same symbol. A black eclipse covering a golden sun. Beneath it, the message remained unchanged. Knowledge belongs to everyone unless someone decides otherwise. Jaden paced across the room. This isn't just a hacker. No, Amara replied quietly. This was planned for years. Lucas Hale entered carrying an old metal storage box. I've been searching through my grandfather's archives. He placed the dusty box on the conference table. Marcus never mentioned Project Eclipse. Until now. Everyone gathered around. Inside the box were old engineering sketches, notebooks, and a sealed envelope. Across the front, written in Marcus Hale's handwriting, were the words, "To be opened only if sunrise is threatened from within." The room became silent. Lucas looked at Amara. I think this belongs to all of us. Amara carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. She began reading aloud. If this letter is opened, then someone has twisted our dream into something dangerous. Everyone listened intently. Project Eclipse was never meant to exist. Jaden frowned. What does that mean? Amara continued. Years before Sunrise was completed, a private consortium approached us. They wanted to fund our work. Lucas slowly shook his head. I've never heard this before. They offered unlimited money. On one condition. The room was completely still. All discoveries made at Project Sunrise would become private property. Elena gasped. So, that's where the idea came from. Amara kept reading. Samuel refused immediately. So did Sophia, Lynn, and Ibrahim. She turned the page. But the consortium did not disappear. They disappeared into the shadows. And they promised they would one day build their own version of Sunrise. Lucas whispered, Project Eclipse. Another page slipped from the envelope. It wasn't a letter. It was a photograph. The image showed 6 people seated around a polished conference table. 5 faces were familiar. Samuel,
Marcus,
Sophia,
Lynn,
Ibrahim. The 6th person had been deliberately scratched out. Only one thing remained visible. A silver ring, engraved with the black eclipse symbol. Jaden stared at the photo. Someone erased their identity. Elena examined it closely. No. She pointed to the edge of the picture. They tried to erase it. There may still be enough left to identify the person. At that moment, one of the cybersecurity analysts shouted, We've got something. Everyone rushed to the computer screens. A tiny signal had appeared. For less than 3 seconds, the hacker had accidentally revealed a location. Not a precise address. Only a region. A remote island in the Atlantic Ocean. The analyst enlarged the satellite image. Dense forest covered most of the island. Near its center stood a massive circular structure. almost completely hidden beneath the trees. Jaden looked at Amara. Think that's our next destination? Before Amara could answer, every monitor in the room suddenly flickered. The black Eclipse symbol appeared once again, this time accompanied by a live video feed. A figure stood in complete darkness. Their face remained hidden. Only their voice could be heard.
Come.
Confident. Almost amused. Congratulations. You found the first clue. The room fell silent. You've inherited Samuel's compassion. The voice paused. But compassion alone will not save the future. Amara stepped closer to the screen. Who are you? The figure laughed softly. Names don't matter. I represent an idea. The founders believed knowledge should be free. We believe knowledge should be earned. Lucas clenched his fists. You've already hurt hospitals and universities. People are suffering. The figure answered without emotion. Every great change requires sacrifice. Amara's eyes hardened.
No.
It requires responsibility. The figure tilted their head. You sound exactly like Samuel. Another pause. Good. That means this challenge is worthy. The screen suddenly displayed a countdown. 72 hours. 72 hours. The mysterious voice spoke one final sentence. Find us before the timer reaches 0. Or every archive connected to Project Sunrise will be permanently erased. The transmission ended. The room fell into stunned silence. Amara looked around at her team. We're going to that island. Lucas nodded. I'm coming. Elena closed Marcus's letter carefully. This time, we're not just protecting a legacy. We're protecting the future. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky once more.